Hi, my name is Dr. Goh Chee Leong. My tip for parents this week is about emotional intelligence. So I think we've all heard about the concept of EQ. It's something that we talk a lot about in the world of work, in the world of adults as well as for children. So EQ, the intelligence quotient for emotions, basically refers to our ability to recognize and manage our own emotions as well as to recognize the emotions in others. And today I'm going to be talking a bit more about the first part of emotional intelligence, which is how do we train our children to sort of understand and manage their own emotions. So this includes things like stress and anger, and I think, yes, you can imagine teaching a young child how to manage stress and anger and frustration and these kind of emotions that are potentially very damaging are useful not just when they are young, but if they develop these skills very early on, then by the time they are young adults, they will really have an edge, I think, over other people because when they face work pressures, university pressures, then they are more prepared to be able to deal with these different emotions that they are going through. So I've got 3 tips for what parents can do to help their children develop emotional intelligence. My first tip is teach your child to be able to label their emotions and describe their emotions. So, next time your child comes in, they're crying, they're feeling very frustrated or angry, the first question you ask them is, so how are you feeling? Tell me how you're feeling. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling bored? Are you feeling tired? So the first step or the first tip is to get your child into the habit of labeling their emotions so that they spend some time thinking about how they really feel. So the difference between happiness and surprise, between sadness and frustration and anger, and of course as they grow up, the vocabulary becomes a bit more nuanced, a bit more sophisticated, a bit more wide, but from an early age, I think this is a simple enough skill. So even a 3-4-year-old can tell you how they feel. That's step 1. Step 2 is getting your child to explain and think about why they feel that particular emotion. So for example, if in step 1 they've said, well, I feel very angry, then your next question to your child is, why do you feel angry? And get them to think a little bit, put the connections together so that they are able to relate and describe the root cause of their anger. So I feel angry because I was not able to Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is not working. I'm playing a game. Or I was very angry because my older brother stole my toys. Or I got very angry because I was watching Astro and it started raining, so I can't watch my TV program. So that's all fine. It's getting your child to just explain and describe what is causing the anger or the stress or the frustration or the sadness. So that's part 2, getting them to understand where the emotion is coming from. And I think that's very important because without that skill of identifying the root cause of our emotions, many times even as adults, we sort of misattribute an emotion. A good case in point is, as adults, sometimes something happens to us at work, and so we get very frustrated because at work, let's say we're angry with somebody in the workplace and we are carrying all this anger and frustration with us the whole day, but we are not able to act it out at work. So we come home, and then at home, we channel all of this anger and frustration, when something bad happens at home. Your kid spills, a glass of milk, or, the maid makes a mistake or something like that, and we unload all that anger. But really, we are not angry at the kid or the maid or anybody else. We're actually angry at somebody at office, So that's a good example of when, we lack emotional intelligence and we're not able to really think and reflect about why am I feeling this thing? And that's why we target the wrong thing. We target the wrong person, right? So that's the second skill, getting our children into the habit of always reflecting on why do I feel this way, all right? The third is managing emotions. So once I've identified how I feel, number 2, I've identified why I feel a certain way. The third step is how do I manage my anger or stress? And I think this is where parents can become very, very practical. As parents, it's not useful to tell your kid to stop feeling an emotion. So that's not practical advice. So for example, when young children are afraid of the dark, and they don't want to go upstairs by themselves, many parents just shout at them, stop being afraid. But when you reflect on that advice, that's not really very helpful advice. The child doesn't know how to stop feeling afraid. Or when the child is very stressed about an exam, just shouting at your child and saying, stop being stressed, stop being angry, stop being mad, stop being, frustrated. So that's not really helpful advice. What your child wants to know is, how do I manage my anger? or stress or fear or sadness, you know. So I think parents, our role is not to sort of order them to stop. It's about giving them suggestions. You know, how do they manage their stress? How can they manage their anger? And this is where your own personal experience becomes very valuable. I mean, many of you have yourself come up with your own methods and solutions for reducing anger. You know, like for example, when you're angry, count to 10, don't say anything, don't send any email or WhatsApp message when you're angry. You know, go and lock yourself in the bathroom for 10 seconds and just count to 10 to calm down, take 10, deep breaths. These are all practical things you can actually ask your child to do. You know, the next time your child is afraid of the dark, you can suggest, okay, what can your child think about that may help them deal with the dark? And so a good example of that is, emphasize the element of control. If it's dark, can you do something to stop it from being dark? Yes, you can. You can turn on the lights, Now, is that something you can do? Yes, that's something you can do. You can reach up to the light switch, you're tall enough to do that. Turn on the lights and then you don't feel dark, and you don't feel scared anymore. And so I think the idea here is to give them practical advice on how to manage certain emotions that might be getting in the way of, them functioning or doing what they need to do, right? So I sum up again. These are 3 simple steps of how to teach your children emotional intelligence. Number 1, get them to identify how they feel. Number 2, get them into the habit of identifying the root cause of their emotions. And number 3, teach them practical things. So don't get angry yourself at them when they feel a certain emotion. It's completely natural to feel anger and stress and sadness and fear, and all of these are normal human emotions. So don't get upset with them for feeling emotions. Rather, give them practical advice on how they can manage their emotions. Thank you very much.